Join me, Matt Connarton, weekdays, 4 to 6 p.m. live for a discussion about politics where we put aside labels like liberal and conservative and have a discussion about truth and what's really happening in the world.
This hour on WMNH is proudly sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 171 Londonderry Turnpike in Hooksett. Serving all your employee benefits planning, design and administration, investment and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. They are available at 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
You are listening to WMNH-LP, Manchester's radio, broadcasting at 95.3 megahertz frequency modulation from the top of 1000 Elm Street. Our studios are located at 1045 Elm Street and licensed to Manchester Public Television Service in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA. Contact us by email at WMNH953@gmail.com or through our website at WMNHradio.org.
Hey, everybody. Excuse me. Welcome. It's Matt Connarton, Unleashed, on this Friday afternoon, March 22nd, 2019, here on WMNH 95.3 in Manchester, and, of course, on Comcast Channel 97, streaming at WMNHradio.org and on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And this is not how I originally intended to start the show today. I actually had what I thought at the time as I was preparing it would be a very funny bit that I was going to do live on the air, but change of plans because and it wouldn't be appropriate to do it now. We'll save it for Monday. What I was going to do. Because I was very sad to learn just a little bit ago of the passing of someone that some of you will be familiar with. He never made an appearance on this show specifically, but you may have seen him on television. If you're local here in Manchester, it's someone you might have known. His name is John Weeks, also known as Mr. Baseball, and he did a show here at Manchester Public Television on Channel 23 called Mr. Baseball, and he was often on John Hopwood's show, Ward 13. And he passed away. Hello to Christian Cunard in the Facebook live chat. John Weeks, Mr. Baseball, passed away. Just found out from John Hopwood a little while ago. So I decided, well, we're not going to do what we were originally going to do. And I just wanted to say a couple things quickly at the top of the show, and then we'll get rolling. And we've got Brian Brawdy calling in a little bit, and we've got some other, after this, it'll be your normal Friday show here, but I didn't know John Weeks that well, but I did know him a little bit because I used to go on before I did the radio show here at WMNH. I was quite frequently on Ward 13 with John Hopwood, or I think at that time, in that time frame, it might have still been Queen City Chronicles. But I used to go on there sometimes as, sort of John's unofficial co-host. And sometimes I would go on there and he would have Mr. Baseball, John Weeks, on there as well. And what would happen in those instances was, the idea was to have a conversation about baseball. And I know nothing about baseball. I'm not a sports guy. If you're a regular listener, you know this about me. But I would play the sort of obtuse, clueless idiot who would just ask really stupid questions about baseball, kind of disrupting the conversation a little bit that they were trying to have and whatnot. And it was fun, and we'd have a good time for the hour. And Mr. Baseball, he had a wonderful sense of humor, didn't seem to mind me being there and kind of making a mockery of the proceedings. He knew how to roll with the bit, and he was great. And so I didn't get to know him that well personally outside of the show, but for a while there, I would see him on a regular basis here in this very building where we would do that. And didn't have to know him that well to really, really like him. Just a very, very nice man. And he's one of those people I said on Facebook earlier, he just had a gentle soul. You could kind of get that sense about him. Just seemed like a very, very nice person. And I have no doubt, that a lot of people, I'm sure he leaves behind family and a lot of friends. And I'm sure there's a a lot of people who really, really love him and are very sad today. So, not to start off on a downer, but like I said, I didn't know him terribly well, but I knew him well enough that I'm very sad to hear of his passing. And I wanted to say something about it, and I know John Hopwood is very sad today, and Joel Elber and whatnot, because they were good friends with him. And we have a call. We'll see if, depending on what this is, we may or may not. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hi, Matt. Skumpi.
Hey, Skumpi, what's up?
Hey, I'm very, very sad to hear about Mr. Baseball.
Yes.
I know John Hopwood was, had a big thing with him, and the guy did. He knew everything about baseball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Real nice gentleman. I got to meet him like once or twice, and they kept asking me to go on the show, and I never did, and I'm like kind of feel bad that I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, my thoughts and prayers to everybody, everyone that knew baseball. God bless y'all.
Absolutely. Yeah, we never know. We never know when our time is up. So.
Oh, you never know. Look at my buddy Johnny Bones, 48 years old last week.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's terrible. All right, Skumpi. Well, thank you.
But anyway, rock on. But I love you all, and my condolences go out to everybody that knew Mr. Baseball.
Absolutely. All right, well said. All right, Skumpi, thank you for the call, my friend.
All right. Peace, guys.
All right, brother. Take care. All right, the great Jeff Skumpi Lorenz. Yeah, so I think John Hopwood said he was going to be airing a tribute to Mr. Baseball in a couple of weeks on his television show, and who knows, maybe he'll pop in today. Maybe John will pop in today and want to talk about it, or I don't know. Everybody's got their own grieving process and so forth, but anyway, so I wanted to just say a few words about that. We'll get on with the show in a moment. Of course, like I said, Brian Brawdy, host of All Natural Being, is going to be joining us today at 4:15. At the top of the hour at 5 p.m., I'm going to do the WMNH radio premiere of the new track Save Yourself from a really good New Hampshire band called Savor the Silence. I'm excited to share that with all of you, too. And we'll see what else, we'll see what other kind of trouble we can get into today. All right, so here we go. Yeah, nothing else to add really to what I was saying. I think I don't know. It's weird. It's that weird thing where I feel like there's something more I should say, but I don't want to. I don't know. I almost feel like anything more that I say about it seems trite now. So it's always it's a tricky thing, when someone passes away. And like I said, I'm in that weird zone too, where it's not someone I knew terribly well, but I knew well enough to be really, really sad that he's gone, and to know that, his family and friends and people who are really close to him, and people like John, John Hopwood, how much they must be hurting right now. That's a tough thing. It's a tough thing, and to try to articulate these things isn't the easiest. For a guy who's pretty good at running my mouth, it's a hard thing to articulate. You see the people who are left behind when someone passes away, people who you care about, and it's like, oh, damn, it's a hard thing. All right, well, let's get rolling. It is Friday.
I woke up in the White House. Oh my God, I'm president. I'm so rich and I'm an ass. And there's a wig on my head. I just FaceTime Putin. I told him I'm his biggest fan. Got so much scandal on the front page. Holy shit, let's build a wall. Ooh, I can tweet so well. Wonder if I can say the N-word. Wait, can I really say the N-word?
North Korea, North Korea, in North Korea, North Korea, in North Korea, North Korea, North Korea,
North Korea. I woke up in Donald Trump's body. So orange overweight and slightly balding. Now I got no
The America of John McCain has no need to be made great again because America was always great.
I've got half a mind to open my show with that Meghan McCain clip every single show for the rest of the Trump presidency. I'm not kidding. Anyway, but we'll put that aside for now. Welcome, everybody. It is Matt Connarton Unleashed in the afternoon, live on WMNH 95.3 FM, streaming at WMNHradio.org. Also, if you're local here in Manchester, you can watch us on Comcast Channel 97 and on Facebook via Facebook Live. On the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. I see Christian Cunard is in there and Jenny is in there as well. It is, of course, Friday, March 22nd, 2019. Brian Brawdy from All Natural Bean is going to be calling in just a few minutes. Later on in the show, I'm going to do the premiere here at WMNH of the new Savor the Silence track, Save Me, or Save You, rather. Is it Save Me or Save You? I think it's Save You. Save You. I'm thinking of Somebody Save Me by Cinderella. Remember that song? Somebody Save Me. Anyway, and we've got plenty of other stuff to do today, too. Always very, very busy in the world of politics and world events and music and all kinds of stuff. Also, John Hopwood wanted to remind everybody about the event tonight. What is this called exactly? The Waypoint Sleepout 2019. Folks sleeping out tonight outside. I think they do this every year. It's at the Stanton Plaza in downtown, right here in downtown Manchester. So if you want to participate, it's for a great cause. That is tonight. It's it's to raise money for homeless folks who sleep out every night. You can at crowdrise.com. You can actually donate right there. So if you want to donate, looks like they're only halfway to goal at this moment. So that's also a way to help. And like I said, it's for a great cause. And, and it's also, too, I mean, not to get too maudlin about it, although we kind of started out on a maudlin note, as it is today. But, it's something that kind of makes you want to stop and appreciate what you have, And it's not an issue that I talk about too much. We don't really do local issues here on the show. But, I mean, the reality is homelessness is everywhere. It's not just in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's a national problem in many, many cities. There are some cities, in fact, I have an article. I don't think we're going to get to it today, but there are some cities that have done a really good job of combating this problem. Here, not so much, but there are some cities that have really kind of got it figured out. But it's something that that you see everywhere, all across the country. And, if you do have a roof over your head, you're fortunate. I don't want to say lucky. I don't like to use the word lucky because lucky implies that you just got lucky or you didn't earn what you have in some way. So I don't like to say that. But fortunate, fortunate to, not have gotten yourself into a situation where maybe you end up in that state of homelessness. Because, something that kind of drives me nuts a little bit is people see folks on the street and they make their judgments and whatnot. And I know it's not a great thing, by the way, to have homeless people on, in front of businesses and whatnot, disrupting things. And I understand the deleterious effect that has to commerce. But, there's that old saying, unless you've walked in someone's shoes, or however that expression goes, you don't know what someone's been through. You don't know how they ended up there, Sometimes very bad things happen to very good people, and they end up in circumstances that they don't deserve to be in, and that they didn't want to be in, and that they tried not to get into, And by the way, obviously there's also plenty of instances where sometimes people make very bad decisions and end up in situations they find themselves in situations they shouldn't find themselves in either. But unless you know somebody's personal story, you need not judge. And this is probably Brian. He's very, very punctual. Is this Brian Brawdy?
It is, Matt. How are you?
You are punctual. It is exactly 4:15 according to my clock here. Welcome, sir. Brian Brawdy, host of All Natural Being.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, when you said 4:15, I had kind of etched it in the calendar for the day.
Yes. Very good. Very good. So you got this thing coming up. Well,
I do.
You've always got something.
Yeah, the International Block Party coming up. Rob from Rob and Slim and some other friends have gotten together and are doing an 18-hour or involved in an 18-hour marathon where we're going to draw awareness to what's called, the hashtag is called Brian Brain Trust. So it will be an all day on March 30th, kind of all day, right? 18 hours from 6 in the morning till midnight if my health holds. And it'll be all about highlighting. There are hosts from all over different radio, different radio shows and the like, but from all over that will be calling in and hanging out and telling their story and see if we can, kind of spread the word a little.
And this will be online. I just want to clarify for anyone listening, this isn't going to be on WMNH or anything like that. This is going to be strictly online. But, and people can participate on with and whatnot. But now you've been on the show with us before, Brian, a while ago. But do you want to kind of, with as much or as little detail as you feel like getting into, do you want to kind of tell us and tell the audience why this is happening, why you're doing this, and how you ended up in this situation, for lack of a better word?
Thank you, Matt. I haven't really told the whole story publicly, so this is kind of a catharsis or a way of getting it out. But we literally just hung up with the doctors a little while ago, and they're suggesting that I go back for a 5th brain surgery. Now, I've had 5.
Wow.
This will make the 5th brain surgery in 2.5 years. And what happened originally 2.5 years ago, they found the golf ball-sized brain tumor. 11.5-hour surgery. They were able to go in. They were able to get it and remove it. That was all cool. But since then, they haven't been able to stop the leak. So I've had 1, 2, 3 other brain surgeries in an attempt to stop the spinal fluid leak. So what happens is where everyone's brain and spinal column contains their spinal fluid that circulates throughout that system.
Yeah.
I have a hole in the base of my skull, base of my brain technically, but the base of my skull that allows the spinal fluid, base of the dura, allows the spinal fluid to leak out, and I end up with a good bit of swelling at the base of my neck on the right-hand side where the tumor was.
Okay.
So they tried the shunt. That didn't work. They pulled the shunt out, hoping it would heal. That didn't work. So now I'm torn between having to spend the rest of my life, awake 2 or 3 hours a day, sleeping 21 hours a day.
Oh my God!
On its face, sounds pretty cool. Right?
Maybe for a cat, not for a human.
Maybe for a cat. Very good. Very good. Not if you have a family and everyone else to support. So
right.
I've opted to go ahead. They said, look, at your age, you're a picture of health with the exception of the brain tumor
right.
and the spinal fluid leak. You're not on medication for anything. You're not. This is the time, if we're going to do it, this is the time to do it because we're confident that you'll recover. But what's interesting to me, Matt, is they're going back into the original wound. So everything that's grown for the last 2.5 years, if it's a part of the problem, they're going to remove it.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
In a way, it's a good bit more extensive than the other ones.
Do you mean? I just want to clarify that, Brian. So, are you saying that there may be? Well, here, let's back up a little bit. Are you saying that they didn't get all of the which was benign, right? For one thing, we should clarify that, the tumor, right? Because obviously, because if that hadn't been benign, most likely at this point, you would not, you wouldn't still be with us.
Probably so.
But they did not. Are you saying they didn't get all of it initially? So it's possible, and I know that's common, right? Just from what I've heard and read and learned from conversations with you, they don't always get all of it, and as long as it's benign, that's not necessarily a terrible thing, right? But are you saying there's a possibility that in the 2.5 years since you had the initial surgery, what was left may have grown?
Well, I don't think there's so much worried about that, Matt. You're right. They got 99% of the tumor, they said.
Okay.
And the 1% of the tumor that they had to leave was right up against a particular artery in the brain.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
And their thought was if they went ahead and removed that last 1%, because it had attached itself to the blood vessel, the artery, if they had removed that 1%, they weren't confident that they could stop me from bleeding out.
Oh, God. Okay.
So what's happened is that when they repaired it, they put in a titanium plate. That didn't stop the leak. They took the plate out. They put in a titanium mesh. That didn't stop the leak. So after 2.5 years and the shunt and all the adjustments, they've realized that this hole, a fissure is what they call it, this fissure is never going to heal itself.
Okay.
So it actually leaks spinal fluid, which for me is not all that bad because, like I said, I think I've grown accustomed to operating a couple quarts low. But for everyone that hopes to have any modicum of mental health, you'd want your system sealed. Mine hasn't been, so they're going to go back in now. And what they're going to remove is, if that titanium plate is a part of the problem, they're going to go ahead and remove it, regardless of how much it's been overgrown by the bone tissue around it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does.
So
yeah.
They're saying just prepare, just mentally prepare yourself. You know, whenever you talk to your doctor and he goes, I've got to tell you what the risks are.
Right.
You know that they're paying attention to it. So
sure.
That's what I have to do. I'm going to be out for a while,
mm-hmm.
Probably a couple months, I would imagine. And by bed rest, they're just saying, don't mountain bike, don't kickbox, don't deadlift, don't do any of the things that you love.
Right.
You just got to relax. And that was a part of the Brian Brain Trust, which I have to thank my good friend Sue for setting up, because the proceeds from that Brain Trust, the largest portion of it goes to making sure that for the time immediately following, that my kids, my family and everyone else is taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
I have, I'll do the bills. I'll do some of those other things on my own after I get back on my feet. But the Brian Brain Trust was designed to kind of help with just the day-to-day stuff, rent, that kind of thing, the day-to-day stuff that they'll need to go through while I'm incapable, really, of doing anything to help.
Yeah. Wow. Hello to Dr. Jeff Cassell, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. Although he's a doctor of psychiatry, so he doesn't. He's not.
I could use that too.
Well, so he's a brain doctor of a different type.
Different type. Mind. Yeah, I could probably use that help as well.
Oh boy.
And even though I laugh when I say that, to be honest with you, Matt, it's been, they put the shunt in and they said the shunt had malfunctioned. So I spent the better part of yesterday and today for certain. 2 years ago, I begged them to do this.
Yeah.
And they said, no. It's not what you think. It's not that bad of a leak. It'll heal itself. I just begged them to do it. And so it's something now to finally have them listening to me. The myelogram, which was an interesting machine, this is where they took me and contorted me and strapped me down and filled me full of a radioactive dye. I think it's iodine. It was a dye or whatever it is.
Okay.
And then they put me in the X-ray machine to see if they could find the hole. And when the doctor called, he said, "Oh yeah, we found the hole." So it's a good bit more sizable than I think they initially had thought.
Okay. Is that good or bad? Because I mean, is it good in the sense that it's easy? You know, finding it easily means it'll be easy to deal with, or does the size of
Great
it mean,
question.
or does it mean it'll actually be worse, or does it matter?
No,
or?
great question. It's worse now because it's so large. That's why I get the swelling.
Oh.
You know, I've joked that I've been stopped before at a grocery store for trying to smuggle out a cantaloupe in my skull cap. So it's worse now because of the pooling at the base of my neck. But I think ultimately they'll pull back. You know, they'll get in, they'll open the skin flap, and then they ought to be able to see it bubbling right out.
Yeah.
You know, not unlike Jed Clampett and Beverly Hillbillies. They ought to be able to see it bubble right out of the ground.
Oh.
And then get in there with their Bondo or their Spackle or their Flex Seal, whatever it is, and get in there and plug it so I can get back to, you know, my abnormal life.
Well, then again, I mean, if you have crude oil bubbling out of your skull, you'd be rich.
I know. You know, I said to someone the other day, I may have said to you, a part of it's the amnesia as well, Matt. As you know, over the last couple of years, I've had some bouts where I've been hospitalized and other bouts that are less serious, but
yeah.
I just literally forget where I am, who I am, what I'm doing. So I may have said it to you last week, but I thought, you know, this would be great if there were a market for secondhand spinal fluid. They could just tap me like a maple tree, right?
Right.
Siphon this stuff off and go, hey, and then it dawned on me, why would anyone want your spinal fluid? They'd probably want spinal fluid from someone a hell of a lot smarter than you.
By the way, you mentioned the shunt a couple times, but most I certainly didn't know until I got to know you, and our listeners probably don't know. What is a brain shunt?
Well, the shunt is set up, Matt, so that it looks like a piece of spaghetti with a small little, let's say about the size of a quarter, and they drill into the center of your brain. The smaller length of the piece of spaghetti, if you will, goes into your ventricle where the CSF fluid is produced. The larger part, which is on the other end of the little pump, if you will, about the quarter-size pump, the larger part, they snake all the way down into your stomach. And so the spinal fluid, the extra spinal fluid, pumps from the center of your brain down through this little piece of spaghetti and into your stomach.
Okay.
Well, what had happened was that they had set my shunt so low that it was vacuuming out a good bit of spinal fluid. They didn't realize that the leak was still leaking. So the Parkinsonism, the burning of the eyes, the ringing of the ears, the lack of any real balance, just the debilitating headaches were because I was losing spinal fluid at both ends.
Oh, my God. Okay.
So a year later when I went back in, I said, guys, you're killing me. Just, you got to, you know, and they said, okay, let's pull the shunt out. And they did, and it started swelling instantly.
Yeah.
But they were still in hopes that the hole would heal itself. And it just, I guess spinal fluid is kind of caustic. So once it finds a hole, it's like the pool. It's like the caddies getting into the pool at Caddyshack.
Yeah.
You know, nothing holds them down.
Right.
That's the same thing with leaking spinal fluid, I'm told.
Okay. Wow. Dude, you've been through it. You've been through it, and it's and you're not done yet, but oh, wow.
And I think for me, Matt, the strangest thing is that if it were a hip or my lungs or my heart or my bad knees, the most challenging part, and when they talk to me about the PTSD behind it all,
yeah,
the most challenging part is that it's the actual seat of reason. So
it's your brain,
when you want to muster your thoughts, when you want to rally your thoughts to say, hey, we can beat this, the very thing that's attacking you is the very thing you rely on, that you rely on to fight any other aggressor.
Right.
So the tough part has been that it's my actual brain that I'm fighting against.
Right, right.
Right. So it's that's been the thing that's been most mercurial, not just the swelling and the headaches, and you know, I was getting to the point where I couldn't hold a glass in my hands and try to drink it because it would clatter up against my teeth. So
Yeah.
what I really am focused on, though, and what I'd like to say is that it's given me appreciation because you're absolutely right, Matt. I'm a really lucky guy. I very well could have died on the operating table. The person in the operating room next to me that went in for a brain tumor never made it out alive.
Oh, no kidding.
I could have had all different types of things happen to me.
Mhm.
And you think of people with Alzheimer's, you think of people with Parkinson's disease. You think of all these other things. And I see people out that lost a good portion of their brain or their ability to walk or their ability to talk,
Yeah.
to speak or to think. So I'm really, 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 really lucky
Yeah.
to have had it go down the way it did. And I've never been a kind of, hey, will you take this cup from me kind of guy. So,
Right.
if this is my fate, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to run from his karma. If it's on me, it's on me. So now I'm just battling to figure out how to get back on top.
Yeah, yeah. And for those who don't know too, because we haven't mentioned it today, of course you've been on before, but that golf ball sized brain tumor where all this started, I mean that had been growing for, they believe, 3 decades, right?
Yes, sir. 30 years, and we only found out about it because I'd gone on a long run. Was pretty pleased in terms of the PR, the personal record, the time that I had. It was in the hills, so
Yeah.
I was pretty pumped. And I went to get a cannoli, and I couldn't. When I went to get the cannoli, I couldn't taste it.
Yeah.
So I called my doctor and said, for whatever it's worth, I couldn't. My tongue is numb, and he goes, "Call your dentist. Leave me alone." And I said, "Yeah, I don't think it's a dental thing, though." And he goes, "Well, there's nothing wrong with you. You're a picture of health."
Yeah.
He goes, "How many miles did you run last week?" And he said, "There's nothing wrong with you." But he says, "To make you feel any better, come in." And I went in, and they did an MRI, and that's how they found it.
Yeah.
So if you ever invite me over for dinner, Matt, just serve styrofoam packaging peanuts because the tumor in order to get to the tumor, they had to cut all the nerves to my tongue, so I can't taste anything anyways. My tongue is still numb.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm an easy guy to cook for, I think.
Do you have no sense of taste at all now?
Not in the very front, the front 2/3 of my tongue.
Okay.
Are totally numb. So I gotta watch like when I drink hot liquids or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I can taste things when they get to the back of my tongue or I go to swallow, which has helped me develop a taste for things I may never have.
Right. Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I like really spicy food now because I think I can feel it more than taste it. But yeah, that's one of the side effects that will not reverse. My eyesight has gotten a little worse. My hearing has gotten a little worse.
Really?
Because of the location of the tumor.
Okay.
And the aftermath. But you make do with what you have, right, brother? You square your shoulders with fate and go, let's have it. Let's bring it.
Right. Exactly.
And go from there.
You got to play the cards you're dealt. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hello to Matt DaCosta, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. Brian, we should. I don't want to keep you too long. You got a lot you're dealing with, man. But let's remind everybody again what's happening on Facebook and some other places online. It's only just over a week away now, March 30th.
Yeah, it's a week from tomorrow. A bunch of really great people have gotten together and said, hey, let's do an 18-hour marathon. The show that I do is called All Natural Being. I'm really fortunate that it's been at the top of the list for a little while. So a lot of the other hosts of different shows and the like that have heard about what I've gone through, they're like, hey, let's do a live call in. It'll be broadcast with audio and video and all the rest of it. So we'll be posting information on Facebook for people that want to learn about it. We'll learn about it there. But a week from this Saturday, which will be the 30th of March, we're going to go from, depending upon how long my voice and the spinal fluid permits, we're going to go from about 6 in the morning till midnight. And it will be for the Brian Brain Trust, which is a GoFundMe page that has been set up, like I said, to And I have to tell you, man, it's kind of humbling, right? Because I've never been in a position to need a lot of help.
Right.
But here's the thing. The doctors say, okay, well, you've got to cut out all your stress. And I go, I got 5 kids. Good luck with that. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cut out all your stress. Oh, yeah, great. So, and let me also thank the people that have already joined Brian Brain Trust.
Yeah.
At that hashtag, because it really is helping me, right? Like, I know now I've got this covered and that covered, so I can kind of go, great, gas me, right? Knock me out, do whatever you got to do, and I can do it knowing that some of these things are buttoned up before I do it. And I apologize if I did mention this, but April 28th now is going to be the big day. So I'm about a month out, a little bit around in there, maybe a month out, and then we'll go in for our 5th and hopefully final time.
Yeah. Wow. Is there anything, by the way, anything special they have you doing leading up to that, or?
Well, with the one thing that was they had said, look, you can't lift more than a gallon of milk.
Ooh, wow.
You know me, I said, great. Who can drink that disgusting liquid anyway? Knock it off.
Yeah.
We mean lifting anything. So I had the tumor 20, which is me calling it now because I haven't been able to do anything.
Yeah.
I've gained 20 pounds. So what I'm going to do for the next month is go on. I can still run. I can still, my balance. I just have to watch falling, but
yeah.
I can still do some stuff. So I'll be, watching my diet pretty meticulously. I'll be, get my workouts back in. I won't be able to, do anything that's going to cause pressure to push the spinal fluid out even more than it has. So I'll be doing stuff to lose the tumor 20 and then just buttoning everything up, Matt, so that when I go under, I know that the things that I'll need to be watched for are taken care of. And so that's about it. And then, just count down the days. I'm looking forward to having my mind back.
Right.
I'm looking forward to having my life back. I'm looking forward to, which again, and I'll leave you with this thought, which is why I realize how lucky I really am, because there's all kinds of people that are just a heck of a lot worse off than I am.
Right.
I'm very, 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 very lucky that, that it was a benign brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just really lucky that it didn't do more damage than it did.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky to like cannolis. I think is what I would leave with. Right? For that cannoli, I still probably wouldn't go. I'd go, it's only numb, don't worry about it.
Right.
You're going to take cannolis from me. You're in for a fun. I should say that I'm very lucky to have a taste for Italian pastries. Well,
you did, at least.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
Now you can't taste it.
I can only daydream now. Right? I can only daydream now.
Right.
All right, Matt, I don't want to hold you up. I'll let you go. Thank you for everything, and for everyone in advance. If you get a chance to tune in on March 30th, I'd super appreciate it, and we'll look forward to hanging out with you then.
All right, brother. Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
All right, you got it.
Man.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. The great Brian Brawdy, host of All Natural Being. Brian contributed to one of my favorite segments. I've been, because at some point I'll, we'll be airing some sort of best of show. And I've been kind of squirreling away these different segments that have occurred on the show over the past couple of years. And one of them is with Brian, and Brian and John Hopwood was here, and the discussion the three of us had, which got pretty got pretty out of control, but it made for a great radio moment. All right, we're going to take a quick break and kind of reset here. I'm going to go ahead and play this track. These guys are from New Hampshire. We're going to have them in for an interview on the show, hopefully sooner rather than later. But they are called Savor the Silence, and this track is called Save You. And then we'll come back and we'll get into some politics. We are live on WMNH 95.3 FM. You're listening to Matt Connarton Unleashed.
Is it over now? Can we talk about, so you know about the way I'm feeling now? And if I told you how I felt that day, would you stay the same? Or would you have gone away. I don't wanna be the one that's turning you away. Would you tell me that you're feeling the same thing? That you've already killed me. So pack your things and leave. This is not the way I planned it. It's not the way I planned it, not at all. And if the world's collide tonight, believe me when I say I would die if I could save you. I'd die tonight if I could save you. And if the world's collide tonight, believe me when I say I would die if I could save you. I'd die tonight if I could save you. Is it over now? Can we talk about? So you know about the way I'm feeling now. If I told you how I felt that day, would you stay the same? Would you have gone away? I don't wanna be the one that's turning you away. Would you tell me that you're feeling the same thing? That you've already killed me. So just pack your things and leave. This is not the way I planned it. It's not the way I planned it, not at all. And if the world's collide tonight, believe me when I say I would die if I could save you. I'd die tonight if I could save you. And if the world's collide tonight, believe me when I say I would die if I could save you. I'd die tonight if I could save you.
There you go. That is brand new from Savor the Silence, a great band from right here in New Hampshire. That is called Save You. I like that a lot. And as I said before, we played it. We're going to have those guys for an interview in soon. You're listening to Matt Connarton Unleashed live here on WMNH 95.3 FM, streaming at WMNHradio.org and on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. You can also watch on Comcast Channel 97 if you're here locally in Manchester. Hello to Stefan Philbrook, who joins us in the Facebook live chat, as well as Rhonda Ostrowitz Favero. I hope I'm saying that. One of those options is correct, Rhonda, because I really don't know. But so, as always, there are a million different things going on in politics. Everything is very, very interesting to the point where, and this is true, I'm sitting here while the song is playing trying to decide which thing to go to next. It is an embarrassment of riches. So many options. Or if you have something you'd like to talk about, give us a call. 603-250-6007 is the number. 603-250-6007. Let's see. This is on Mediaite. Trump battles with Maria Bartiromo over John McCain comments. Bartiromo, I don't know why I have trouble saying that, telling him, Mr. President, he's dead. He can't punch back. If you haven't been following this story, of course, President Trump, 7 months after the death of Senator John McCain, continuing his feud, his as somebody on Twitter says, his roast battle with a dead guy. Typically, if you're going to engage in a war of words, both parties need to be still alive. But Trump seems to have it in his mind that, he's going to win this argument with McCain. Now, in a sense, he already has won the argument with McCain, right? Because if you think about it, John McCain, at one time a very popular and revered figure in politics, but then Daddy came along and said, I don't like this guy. And then so Republicans everywhere also decided, well, if Daddy doesn't like him, I guess we don't like him either. So now a lot of Republicans on social media spew a lot of hatred about McCain because that's what Daddy says. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hi, Matt. This is Mary from Cruising with Mary.
Hey, Mary. How are you? I don't think you've
Not
ever.
too bad. I just heard it at the beginning of your show. I just want to send my condolences out to the family. And you, John, too, because I know those two were very close.
Yes. For those just joining us or who don't know yet, we did lose a member of the family here locally at Manchester Public Television, John Weeks, known as Mr. Baseball, and hosted a program by that title. A very, very nice man who passed away. We just learned that today. So, yeah, John Hopwood alerted me to this earlier, Mary, and I was, I didn't know that he was struggling with his health, and it was quite a shock.
Yeah, it is a shock when you said that. It's, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
You know, because I watched that show and everything about baseball when they have it and everything. It was really quite a shock, but I just want to send my condolences out to his family and you too, John, if you're listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is a shock to everybody.
Yeah. All right, Mary. Well, thank you. Hey, plug your show while you're... I know that's not the reason you called, but this is the first time you've ever called my show, I think. Why don't you go ahead and plug your show, Cruising with Mary?
Oh, yeah, I've called you before, but I never... Oh, it's Cruising with Mary. I'm on every Thursday at 5 o'clock, and we have some fun on there and a lot of discussions. But, it's fun, and it's hard when you lose another fellow person that's on the same channel as you on in the same building. What can you say? It's just plain hard.
Absolutely. All right, Mary. Well, thank you so much for the call. It's wonderful to hear from you.
All righty.
All right.
Getcha.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Mary Lemay, host of Cruisin' with Mary, which is on every week on Channel 23, and then it replays several times, I think, throughout the week, too. Stefan in the Facebook live chat says, Matt, if you are free after the show, come check out Urinetown, the musical, at 6:30 at Central, also the same time tomorrow. Urinetown is a hilarious musical satire of the legal system, capitalism, social irresponsibility, populism, bureaucracy, corporate mismanagement, municipal politics, and musical theater itself. Hilariously funny and touchingly honest. Urinetown, I have to click see more. Did you type all this, Stefan, or did you copy-paste this? Let's see, where'd I leave off? Hilariously funny and touchingly honest, Urinetown provides a fresh perspective on one of America's greatest art forms. In a Gotham-like city, a terrible water shortage caused by a 20-year drought has led to a government-enforced ban on private toilets. The citizens must use public amenities regulated by a single malevolent company that profits by charging admission for one of humanity's most basic needs. Amid the people, a hero decides that he's had enough and plans a revolution to lead them all to freedom. It was a copy-paste. Oh, Stefan, I appreciate your honesty in clarifying that. Yeah, I noticed, too, you mentioned Urinetown in your volley, shall we speak, with a Mr. Randall Kelly earlier on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page, although it looks like things ended relatively friendly between the two of you. And I must say, it is fun to say Urinetown. Let's see, we have another call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hello, this is Father Bruno Sarducci. I'm calling from Italy.
Father Guido Sarducci.
No, Bruno, Guido. That was my uncle.
Guido was your uncle from Saturday Night Live. Yes, you're...
No. He's from the Vatican Gazette. He's a very serious guy, but it's very sad when he passed away.
Yes. Well, I'm sure. What's your name again? You're Bueno or something?
I'm Bruno, Father Bruno Sarducci.
Oh, Bruno.
I'm a priest.
Oh, well, of course you are. Yes, Father. Hence the father. Well, this is very exciting. Are you also?
Oh yeah. The reason I'm calling you because
yes.
I just got a new cell phone.
Oh.
It's very nice. Very nice cell phone. It's actually a new used cell phone.
It sounds fantastic, especially whereas you're calling all the way from Italy. Are you also a...
Well, the Vatican. We got a very good reception. We got the big guy in the sky watching out for us.
You can afford it. You can afford it at the Vatican.
Well, the phone was a gift from the Pope himself.
Oh, wow.
Very nice guy. Very nice guy.
Well, it's nice to have friends in high places.
Yeah, it's not the new. It's a Note 4, a Samsung.
Oh, a Samsung Note 4, yes.
Yeah, but it's very good. Much better than my last phone, which I got from the Vatican. They give it free, but it's a flip phone. Not good.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
but I was listening to you, and
Yes.
I just wanted to make I wanted to make a little comment because of this. I watched the Trump reality show, and like you, I have my own radio show. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Maybe I give it a little plug now. It's called Get Right with Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Tuesday and Wednesday night at 11 o'clock, Vatican time.
What? Now, why do you say it that way, Thursday and Wednesday? Is it a new episode Thursday and then Wednesday's the repeat? Is that why you put the Thursday first? Or in Italy, does Thursday come before Wednesday?
Maybe I misspoke. It's Wednesday. It's Thursday night at 11 o'clock Vatican time. Maybe sometime you tune in, you call me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have?
But listen, I'm very interested in what you said about this conflict with the President of the United States and John McCain.
Yes.
So we know who the winner is in that argument.
Well, who would you say is the winner, Father Sarducci?
Well, it's kind of obvious. Don't you see that? John McCain, he's dead. He's dead.
Right.
And Donald Trump, he's alive. So, it's pretty clear who's the winner.
But do you think McCain, maybe he can find a way to communicate from heaven, some sort of insult to, you'd be the guy to ask about this, some sort of...
No, John McCain is not going to heaven. This guy is a politician. They never go to heaven. They want to.
Yes.
But they can't. We don't let them in.
Well, he never struck me as particularly religious anyway. I never saw him really cozying up too much to the Christian right, unlike our president, who is, of course, very, very godly.
Yes, Donald Trump might be the one exception who gets into heaven. It's possible.
Yes.
And he likes the Pope very much. He said that before.
Oh, did he? I didn't know he...
as much as Kim Il-jong.
Yes.
And some of his other friends, like Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Pope, Kim, and Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
He likes them all very much.
I like how you say Putin. I like that.
Well, I do my best.
Yes.
I am an important radio host in the Vatican.
Yes.
109.4.
109.4.
Special spectrum.
Is this shortwave or?
It's God's spectrum.
Yes. Is it television or strictly radio?
Radio. It's radio.
Yeah. What do you do on the show exactly? I don't think you really told us what you do on the show. Is it just a talk show?
The show is called Get Right with Jesus. So of course I talk about how to get right with Jesus.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't know if maybe you play some religious music. Maybe you talk about.
We
talk about
don't
pasta?
play music.
Okay.
We don't do that.
Oh, okay.
We talk about God and Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes we talk about the prophets.
Oh, you do?
But, we don't play music. That's not the show. It's, I know maybe you play music on your show, but, we don't need music.
Yeah.
We need God.
Well, yes, and that's what I'm always saying, too. In fact, I'm always telling that to the management here at WMNH. They'll be like, Matt, you should play more music on the show. And I tell them, I say, we don't need more music. We need God. And they just kind of look at me funny.
Exactly.
Yes.
I got to get my job in the Vatican, one of my main jobs, which is why I got the cell phone, is getting the Pope his clothes ready for him, because he's got to, look right for his audience, get out on the balcony, get up in the morning, greet all the important officials in the church.
Yes.
He's the top guy, He's kind of like Donald Trump.
Oh, that's true. And they're both equally infallible.
Well, That's true. That's very, very true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm just telling you, I think it's already decided about John McCain. He lost. Donald Trump won. It's 1-0.
It is 1-0. All right,
Yeah.
Father Bruno Sarducci.
Maybe sometime I give you a call. Maybe you call me on my show sometime, okay?
I would love to call into your show. I could use some.
I'll get you the number so you can call me. You have international calling?
We'll figure it out. Maybe I can Skype in. We'll figure something out, right?
Yeah. Well,
we'll do this.
Maybe you can do that. I don't know about these things, but I got to run now. I'm sorry. I'm going to say goodbye. Father Bruno Sarducci, checking out.
All right, Father. Thank you. And amen. All right, Father Bruno Sarducci. You know what? I didn't get a chance to ask him if he's a smoker. His dad or his uncle is Guido Sarducci. Father Guido Sarducci. I used to see him on SNL. He was always smoking a cigarette. Let's see. Stefan says Trump is banned from the play. Urinetown. We don't want to give him any ideas off to the show. Yes, well, he may be there just reflecting wistfully on a previous trip overseas, before he was president, obviously. All right. 603-250-6007 is the number to call. 603-250-6007. Let's see. So this is from Mediaite. It says President Donald Trump's most recent attacks on the late Senator John McCain was so egregious that even Fox business host Maria Bartiromo called him out during a new interview, pointing out that McCain can't punch back. He's dead. And by the way, I mean, it's got to be pretty bad if Maria Bartiromo, who, if you've seen any of her other interviews with Trump, she doesn't... she's from Fox. She's from Fox, and she's not Chris Wallace. Therefore, it's going to be a relatively friendly discussion. But let's see. Actually, we have a clip. If it'll play, I'll play the audio. I say if because the media player, I know, it seems like probably on average about once a week I complain about this, but the media player on Mediaite.com is dreadful. I mean, I love the site, but that's not even going to play. All right, so we'll just read it. Sadly, I don't do a Maria Bartiromo impression, but she said, quote, "You spent a good portion of your time in Ohio the other day trashing John McCain. Senator John McCain is dead. Why are you doing this?" Now, I haven't pre-read this, so I don't know what the president's explanation is for why he continues to trash John McCain. So let's learn together. Here's what he said. Quote, "It's not a good portion of my time. It's a very small portion," unquote. Oh, there you go. Okay, well, if it's I'll tell you what. If it's only a small portion of Trump's time that he spends continuing to trash a guy who's been dead for 7 months who can't defend himself, if it's only a small portion of his time spent doing that, then that makes it all perfectly normal. Let's see. So Trump said that before repeating several of his favorite attacks about John McCain, which themselves contain numerous falsehoods. In fact, Trump spent a solid 4.5 minutes ranting about McCain in Ohio on Wednesday, falsely claiming that he had approved McCain's funeral, complaining that he hadn't been thanked for the gesture, and even taking credit for a piece of legislation that was literally named after McCain. Okay, about the funeral thing. Now, there's something that Trump might not have considered here. He probably isn't going to get a thank you from John McCain because traditionally, you could give someone, someone could pass away, and you could give them the most beautiful funeral in the history of the world, with everything that they could have ever said that they wanted at their funeral, flowers and music and whatever else, right? You could give someone the greatest funeral ever. They're not going to thank you. And it's not that they're ungrateful. and this might be the part that the president, maybe he hasn't quite connected the dots on this in his mind. It's not that John McCain is ungrateful, I'm sure. I mean, look, I don't know what's in or was, or if there's an afterlife, still maybe, whatever, in John McCain's heart. I have no way of knowing that. But I would assume that John McCain would, in fact, be very grateful for the funeral he wanted that the president allegedly approved. But he can't thank him. He can't express his appreciation in any way. He can't send flowers. He can't send a nice note. Apparently, John McCain never used email. He can't call him, can't text him, can't thank him in any way. What with the whole being dead part of that. So if Trump is waiting for a thank you from John McCain, he's going to be waiting for a very long time. So I'm sure I'm sure the president's feelings are deeply hurt. John McCain's apparent lack of appreciation for the beautiful funeral that Trump approved him to have, apparently. But he's going to be waiting a while for that. I'm just saying. So, and then the Mediaite site just totally crashed. Let me see if I can get back on it here. But I think it might be the deep state is interfering. The deep state doesn't want me talking, or maybe it's the ghost of John McCain doesn't want me talking about this. The ghost of John McCain, as invoked by Michelle Malkin at CPAC, blaming the quote-unquote ghost of John McCain for a bunch of stuff. Let's see. And then it says here, okay, I got Mediaite back up. Here's another story on Mediaite. It says here, the White House tried to stop Fox's Bartiromo, I don't know why I can't say her name, from asking about Trump. Oh, you know what? Now that the site's reloaded, I might be able to get the audio to play here. I got a spinning wheel. It says, when Fox News anchor Maria...
And replaced.
Oh, here we go.
Had great health care.
But, Mr. President...
All right, let me just back that up to the very beginning. So this is him talking to Maria Bartiromo. Remember that he blames, one of the things Trump blames, which is where it sounds like this clip picks up, he blames John McCain. Because if John McCain hadn't, remember that very dramatic thumbs down at that vote for the skinny repeal, they were calling it, for the Obamacare repeal, and McCain voted thumbs down, Trump contends if only he had voted thumbs up and they had passed that, we'd all have great health care right now. We'd have the hugest, best, most bigly health care, but we don't. And it's all John McCain's fault. And that's why because Trump is I don't know if y'all realize this, he's very empathetic and he cares so deeply about the health concerns of the American people. So this is very troubling for him. And that's why he just, even in death, he cannot possibly forgive John McCain. But here.
He's dead. He can't punch back. I know you punch back, but he's dead.
I don't talk about it. People ask me the question. I didn't bring this up. You just brought it up. You asked the question.
Well, you talked about it this week.
What?
You asked me the question. When I went out yesterday to the scrum, they asked me the question.
God, he sounds like a little kid, doesn't he? He really does sound like a child. This is what is he, 71? I just want everybody to understand. This is a 71-year-old man going, you just asked me the question. I didn't. I mean, just I know roughly 40% of you think this is all great and you're really proud of this guy, but the rest of us are like, he's a man baby. You just asked me the question. That's the only reason I talk about it. I wouldn't talk about it if you didn't ask me.
When they ask me the question, I answer the question. But you people bring it up. I don't bring it up. I'm not a fan. He was horrible what he did with repeal and replace.
Here we go.
It was what he did to the Republican Party and to the nation and to sick people that could have had great health care was not good. So I'm not a fan of John McCain, and that's fine.
Do you feel a responsibility as president to bring the nation together?
I do, and I think I am in a certain way bringing it together. I can tell you that.
I do. Yeah, you are. In a certain way, you are. You're doing a bang-up job, buddy. You're such a uniter.
A big portion of this nation is united like it's never been united before. You look at our economy.
Well, he's not wrong in a sense. He means his base. His base is united like they've never been before. That, I think, is true.
You look at jobs, you look at African American, the lowest in the history of our country, unemployment numbers, the best numbers they've ever had.
But that's what I'm saying.
Hispanic, you look at Asian, you look at women, the best in 65 years, best numbers in 65 years. I think I am bringing it together. I think I'm bringing it together.
Not by talking about John McCain.
I just said, you brought up a question, Maria. I didn't bring it up. I didn't mention John McCain until you asked me a question.
Good for her, by the way, for not letting him out of it. Because typically what happens is because, Trump sort of tried to take control of the conversation and move beyond it, what the original question was. And that's a skill of a politician. And, and for everyone who says, for everyone who makes excuses for Trump, he's not a polished politician. He's not a real politician. He has no experience in this. In some ways, he's an excellent politician. He knows a lot of the tricks of the trade. And one of them is, when somebody's asking you about something that you don't want to answer or you can't justify or whatever, you change the subject. But you try to change the subject in a way that isn't obvious, that's subtle enough that you can get away with it without it being too jarring or obvious. So he changed. He did it. He did it pretty effectively there. He moves into touting what I was going to say his accomplishments, but actually what all the things he wants to take credit for. Let me put it that way. So he shifts into that, and he does it pretty effectively, but she doesn't let him out of it, which is good because 9 times out of 10, whether a politician is sitting with someone who is in theory in their corner, like Fox News is in Trump's corner, or someone who may be more adversarial in terms of their approach journalistically to the interview of the politician in question, usually they're allowed to get away with that. Politicians are usually allowed to get away with that. And the reason they're allowed to get away with it, rather than the interviewer committing an actual act of journalism and asking a follow-up question, you don't see it that much. And there's a reason why. Because when every time a journalist commits an actual act of journalism in that situation and asks a follow-up question, what happens? They run the risk of losing access. That's why, you don't see that a lot in big media, in corporate media. You don't see a lot of follow-up questions. You don't see politicians being held accountable. I mean, personally, this is how I feel about it. I want an aggressive media that asks follow-up questions, that asks aggressive questions about everybody. Not just about Trump, but about everybody, to everybody, and again, it's not a partisan thing, and I'm an independent, so regardless of who's in the White House, I would say the same thing. When Barack Obama was president for 8 years, I would have liked maybe a journalist to ask him something about, hey, by the way, in terms of the financial crash, you said something about at some point we might actually prosecute some of the people who caused that by doing illegal things in the financial sector who need to be held accountable. And then you kind of just forgot about it. Oh, and by the way, couldn't help but notice Wall Street financed your campaign. Is there a connection there? But of course, nobody was ever going to actually ask Barack Obama that question. Because what would happen then? You're not going to... It'd be the last question you ever get to ask Barack Obama, or at the very least, the last opportunity you're going to have to interview Barack Obama, or probably even to be in the same room with him. And by the way, and this is another thing, if you support someone, you should be the first who wants that person asked hard questions. But it doesn't work that way with our two-party system and this binary political ideological system that we have in this country. Because what happens is, so you have Democrats who would love to have a Republican president like Trump held accountable by the media. But if the media isn't interested in asking Barack Obama any hard questions during his time in office, that was fine. But you do want them to be held accountable when it's Trump, right? Correctly. So I agree with you. You should want an aggressive media with Trump. And I don't agree that it's quote unquote fake news every time something negative about Trump is reported in the media. But also the inverse should be true. If you're if you're a Republican, I mean, as it works currently right now, right? If you're a Republican, yeah, you would want Barack Obama asked hard questions, but somebody asks a hard question of Trump and you're like, oh, fake news, fake news. It should be the other way around. Well, actually, it should be everybody. Here's how it should work if we lived in a politically healthy country where people were reasonable. This is how it should work. Oh, hello to Fred Bonig in the Facebook live chat. Chris Waldron in there. Chris, I'll get to your comment in a second. Here's how it should work. If you support someone, you should be the first to want that person asked hard questions and held accountable because you supported them. You voted for them. So, again, I'm an independent, but I voted for Barack Obama in 2008. So I didn't like seeing him get a pass from the media in a lot of instances. And by the way, Republicans aren't wrong to complain about that. They way overstate it, because they're Republicans. They have an ideological reason for overstating it. But they're not completely wrong either. In some instances, they are right. In some instances, Obama did get a pass. I voted for him in 2008, so I wanted an aggressive media asking hard questions. If you're a Republican and you voted for Trump, you should want an aggressive media asking him hard questions. You shouldn't be so hyper protective of him that you're so upset and offended every time somebody asks him a question you don't like or reports something about him you don't like. You should want that because you voted for him, so you should want him to be held accountable. This is something nobody ever talks about, but it's part of what is so dysfunctional about this binary two-party political system in this country. This tribalism where everybody treats it like a team sport, us versus them, red versus blue. Everybody wants the other team held accountable, but they never want their own team held accountable. But if I vote for somebody, I'm the first one who wants that person I voted for held accountable because I voted for them. That person represents me. I gave that person my vote. And if you're in the media, I want you to give that person a hard time. I do. I want you to be aggressive. I want you to ask hard questions. And then I want you to ask follow-up questions. And then I want you to let them not just squirm out and wriggle out of whatever, you're asking them and getting away with it. I want you to be an aggressive media with them. That's how it should be. You should want your own team. We shouldn't even have teams. But you should want your own team to be held accountable. Why? Because that's your team. That would be, if we lived in a politically healthy culture, that's how it would work. But we don't have that. Chris Waldron in the Facebook live chat says, hey, Matt, it's Chris from Savor the Silence. Thanks for playing the track. Looking forward to swinging by soon. Chris, glad to do it. Thank you for sending it to me. I think it's a great track. Oh, my God. We have breaking news. Wait, I got to do this. And I'm not even being a smartass about it. We literally have big breaking news. Fred in the Facebook live chat says they just dropped the Mueller report. Oh, my God. Okay. Okay, wow. I'm clicking the link. Oh, my God. This is it. It's like this moment that we all knew was coming eventually. Looks like it's here. I'm glad this happened while I'm on the air. The New York Times reporting Mueller delivers report on Russia investigation to the Attorney General. This just happened March 22nd, 2019. Says the special counsel, Robert S. Mueller III, has delivered a report on his inquiry into Russian interference in the 2016 election to Attorney General William P. Barr, according to the Justice Department, bringing a close to an investigation that has consumed the nation and cast a shadow over President Trump for nearly 2 years. Wow, this is it. Mr. Barr will decide. I mean, I shouldn't say this is it. I mean, there's more steps to this now. But this is a big, big moment. Mr. Barr will decide how much of the report to share with Congress, and by extension, the American public. The House voted unanimously in March on a non-binding resolution to make public the report's findings, an indication of the deep support within both parties to air whatever evidence prosecutors uncovered. In a letter to the leadership of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees, Mr. Barr wrote, quote, I may be in a position to advise you of the special counsel's principal conclusions as soon as this weekend, unquote. Since Mueller's appointment in May of 2017, almost 2 years ago, his team is focused on how Russian operatives sought to sway the outcome of the 2016 presidential race and whether anyone tied to the Trump campaign, wittingly or unwittingly, cooperated with them. While the inquiry started months earlier by the FBI unearthed a far-ranging Russian influence operation, no public evidence has emerged that the president or his aides legally assisted it. Nevertheless, the damage to Trump and those in his circle has been extensive. A half dozen former Trump aides have been indicted or convicted of crimes, mostly for lying to federal investigators or Congress. Others remain under investigation in cases that Mr. Mueller's office handed off to federal prosecutors in New York and elsewhere. And let me just stop there for a moment. That's a big reason why, yes, this is a very, very big moment, but this whole thing is far from over. Or I should say, maybe I should put it this way. We have this other thing that's far from over. And that's the federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York and what they're investigating and the things that Trump can't do anything about in terms of a pardon. Well, actually, I guess he could because they're federal. Well, but if he's charged in the state of New York by the state AG, that's something he can't do anything about, I should say. I didn't say that quite correctly. Dozens of Russian intelligence officers or citizens, along with 3 Russian companies, were charged in cases that are likely to languish in court because the defendants cannot be extradited to the United States. Even though Mueller's report is complete, some aspects of his inquiry remain active and maybe overseen by the same prosecutors once they are reassigned to their old jobs within the Justice Department. For instance, recently filed court documents suggest that investigators are still examining why the former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort turned over campaign polling data in 2016 to a Russian associate whom prosecutors said was tied to Russian intelligence. Mr. Mueller looked extensively at whether Trump obstructed justice to protect himself or his associates. But despite months of negotiations, prosecutors were unable to personally interview the president. Yeah, whatever happened to the written questions? I thought Trump had submitted some written. It says here Trump's lawyers insisted that he respond only to written questions from a special counsel. Even though under current Justice Department policy, a sitting president cannot be indicted, Trump's lawyers worried that his responses in an oral interview could bring political repercussions, including impeachment, or put him in legal jeopardy once he is out of office. Not since Watergate has a special prosecutor's inquiry so mesmerized the American public. Trump has helped to make Mueller a household name, attacking his investigation, an average of about twice a day. Yeah. As an unfair, politically motivated attempt to invalidate his election. He never forgave former Attorney General Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III for accusing himself from the Russia inquiry, an action that cleared the way for his deputy, Rod Rosenstein, to appoint Mueller. Trump reiterated his attacks on the special counsel this week, saying Mueller decided out of the blue to write a report, ignoring that regulations require him to do so. But the president also said the report should be made public because of tens of millions of Americans would want to know what it contains. Yeah, Trump's been all over the place about that with his statements. But this time he said, quote, let people see it. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. There was nothing, unquote. Yeah, it's weird. At other times, Trump has said, no, it shouldn't even be released. Nothing should be done with it. It should be thrown into a fireplace or something. I mean, well, he didn't literally say that, but I mean, he's just been all over the place. In court, the evidence amassed by the Mueller team is held up. Every defendant who is not still awaiting trial either pleaded guilty or was convicted by a jury. Oh, but it's a witch hunt, remember? Although no American has been charged with illegally plotting with the Russians to tilt the election, Mueller uncovered a web of lies by former Trump aides. 5 of them were found to have deceived federal investigators or Congress about their interactions with Russians during the campaign or the transition. That includes Manafort, Michael Flynn, the president's first national security advisor, and Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and longtime fixer. Another former advisor, Roger Stone, is to stand trial in November on charges of lying to Congress. Those who know Mr. Mueller, a former FBI director, predicted a concise, legalistic report devoid of opinions. Nothing like the 445-page treatise that Ken Starr, who investigated President Bill Clinton, produced in 1998. Operating under a now-defunct statute that governed independent counsels, Starr had far more leeway than Mueller to set his own investigative boundaries and to render judgments. And by the way, excuse me, that's kind of how we ended up with, Monica Lewinsky, right? The regulations that govern Mueller, who is under the supervision of the Justice Department, only require him to explain his decisions to either seek or decline to seek criminal charges in a confidential report to the Attorney General. The AG is then required to notify the leadership of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. During his Senate confirmation hearing, Barr promised to release as much information as possible, saying, quote, "The country needs a credible resolution of these issues," unquote. But he may be reluctant to release the part of Mr. Mueller's report that may be of most interest. Who the special counsel declined to prosecute and why, especially if Mr. Trump is on that list. The department's longstanding practice, with rare exceptions, is to not identify people who were merely investigative targets in order to avoid unfairly tainting their reputations, especially because they would have no chance to defend themselves in a court of law. Rosenstein, who has overseen Mueller's work and may have a say in what is released, is a firm believer in that principle. Let's see. I'm kind of skipping down because it's a long article. We don't need to go through the whole thing. But let me kind of skip down to the end here. Some predict that any disclosures from Mueller's report will satisfy neither Trump's critics nor his defenders, especially given the public's high expectations for answers. A Washington Post Schar School poll in February illustrated the sharp divide in public opinion. It found that of those surveyed, most Republicans did not believe evidence of crime that Mueller's team had already proved in court, while most Democrats believed he had proved crimes that he had not even alleged. Recent weeks have brought fresh signs that the special counsel's work was ending. 5 prosecutors have left, reducing the team from 16 to 11. Mueller's office confirmed that Andrew Weissman, a top deputy, is also expected to leave soon. A key FBI agent, David W. Archery, has transferred to another post. Rosenstein was expected to leave the Justice Department by mid-March, but may be lingering to see the report to its conclusion. So there you go. A very, very big day. Cable news should be interesting tonight. The Mueller report has been delivered. But, of course, we do not yet know what is in it. So I think what we'll do is let's play another track. This is Lauren Mayer. She does a lot of these really fun political song parodies, and I want to play this one. It's if you're not familiar with the Devin Nunes story, he's suing Twitter because of fake accounts that he say defamed him. Or I'm sorry, he was suing Twitter. I think the suit's already been thrown out as frivolous. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at that and get an update on that. But one of the fake accounts was Devin Nunes' cow, and apparently Devin Nunes, that's part of the reason he was suing Twitter, was because of the Twitter account Devin Nunes cow. Apparently, you don't. Devin Nunes feels that he was unfairly smeared by that account. So here it is from Lauren Mayer. This is a lot of fun. This is Mocking Devin's Cow. You're listening to Matt Connarton Unleashed on WMNH 95.3 FM.
Frivolous lawsuits, Nunez would say, are something that we should not allow. I guess he's changed his tune today, now that they're mocking Devin's cow. Mocking Devon's cow. This hilarious Twitter account is how his feelings are hurt and he's saying how they're mocking Devon's cow. This fragile snowflake is upset by pun-filled tweets that insult and curse. Honey, any woman on the internet has to deal with a whole lot worse. Mocking Devon's cow. And the stupid lawsuit let us endow the account with more followers than Nunez now. We're all mocking Devon's cow. He'll sue. He'll sue.
There you go. That's Lauren Mayer, the comedian, with Mocking Devon's Cow. And I found this while I was playing from the LA Times. This story. Devon Nunez sues a sassy cow on Twitter, and she gains a herd of followers. Needless to say, I had to do that. Oops, I was trying to hit the air horn. Anyway, the air horn doesn't work. Sometimes it gets stuck. Let's see. It says here. And obviously, this is an opinion piece written by Robin Abkarian for the LA Times, writing, I get it, Devon Nunez. Your feelings are hurt. You don't like being called a name or being told you belong in prison. But when a person has a public profile, even a teensy one like mine, attacks will follow. Vilification comes with the territory, as does praise, but whatever. Criticism, even unfair or vile criticism, is a small price to pay for the honor of being a congressman or a newspaper columnist. I've been the butt of countless jokes and insults. I've been called a caterwauling operatic diva. I've been invited to kill myself to make the world a better place. Been accused of being an anti-Semite and a man-hating feminist. I've been called Satan's little whore. Does it sting? Maybe for a minute. But sticks and stones, baby, suck it up. Somehow, as you grew up, your family's Tulare country dairy farm, on your family's Tulare country dairy farm, you never managed to internalize that ego-preserving message. If you want to be a national political player, you have to brush off the insults, the name-calling, and the jokes about your intelligence. Instead, you are a thin-skinned public figure willing to dish out nasty criticism about your enemies, real or perceived, but unable to take slings that are inevitable in your line of work. In October, you printed a 40-page pamphlet attacking your local newspaper, the Fresno Bee, which, until 2018, had endorsed you every time you ran for office. You purported to reveal its dirty little secrets. You called out its reporters by name, accusing them of glamorizing your opponents by covering political demonstrations at your office. Taking a page from President Trump, you vilified your paper as fake news. And yet, Devon, you can't hear being made fun of by a fictional cow on Twitter. You're not just in a beef with the cow. You're snorting mad at the platform itself. You want Twitter and your tweeting tormentors to pay you at least $250 million, plus punitive damages of $350,000. Devon, you do realize that when you filed your defamation suit, the sassy bovine had only 1,204 Twitter followers. As of late Thursday evening, it had 610,000 followers, and the number was growing by the hour. I love nothing more than curling up with a colorful lawsuit. U.S. Representative Devin Nunes is suing not just Twitter and whoever is behind @DevinCow, but a Republican political operative named Liz Mayer, who frequently posts derogatory tweets about him. Also named in the suit, whoever is behind @Devin Nunes' mom. Oh boy. Which was full of vulgar sexual insults and has been suspended by Twitter. Nunes has a mom, after all, and someone was impersonating her. Mayer has said she will not comment on the lawsuit, but is seeking donations for her legal fees. The 40-page lawsuit is a compendium of the most insulting tweets. Some are funny, most are brutal, and many are so over the top you can't take them seriously. @DevinCow often calls Nunes a treasonous cowpoke and has a propensity for terrible livestock puns, like he's utterly worthless. Devin is way, W-H-E-Y, over his head in crime, and so on. Nunes claims this constitutes, quote, an orchestrated defamation campaign of stunning breadth and scope, one that no human being should ever have to bear and will suffer in their whole life, unquote. And then parenthetically, she writes, paging Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, please pick up the White House hypocrisy phone for an apology from all the Republicans who screamed about putting you all in jail and lied about your citizenship and were never disavowed by Nunes. The purpose of the defamation campaign, the lawsuit claims, quote, was to cause immense pain, intimidate, interfere with, and divert Nunes' attention from his investigation of corruption and Russian involvement in the 2016 presidential election, unquote. Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee regularly accuse Nunes, who was chairman until this year, of obstructing the inquiry in order to protect the president. He was widely mocked for that infamous midnight visit to the White House in which he slipped away from his own staff to share intelligence information with Trump's staff before showing it to his Republican and Democratic committee colleagues. For this, his fellow Republican, Senator Lindsey Graham, compared him to the bumbling Inspector Clouseau. Nunes has also briefly had to step down from his chairmanship while the Congressional Ethics Office investigated whether he had made unauthorized disclosures of classified information. And by the way, never mind that California's resounding blue wave, which helped Democrats take control of the House, cut into Nunes' support in November. He is blaming Twitter for causing him to beat his midterm opponent, Democrat Andrew Jans, by a smaller margin of victory than he had expected. Well, how humiliating. So anyway, there's more to that. If you want to read the whole thing, it's up at latimes.com, and it's quite entertaining. And boy, I wish I had some mooing sound. Actually, there is, at the bottom of the article, there is this great meme. It's a picture of Nunes looking upset, and it says, "Why are people mooing at me? Can I sue them?" So very nice. So there you go. I think Devin Nunes, very deserving of the ridicule that he's receiving. Bill Muckler joins us in the Facebook live chat. Hello, Bill. I did recently interview Bill on the show. It was a great conversation. Of course, all the shows are archived at WMNHradio.org. Let's see. Hello also to, on Facebook, Janet Vilpando. Probably butchered that. I apologize. Heidi Hamer is in there, as well as Peter White. Peter White, of course, from the morning show with Peter White, which you can hear weekdays from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on WMNH 95.3. By the way, speaking of which, I was listening to the replay, and it sounds like our own Eric Gagnon. I say our own because even though he's the entertainment reporter on the morning show, if you're a regular listener, you know I have been trying to poach him rather shamelessly to become the official entertainment reporter here on Matt Connarton Unleashed. And as I always tell Eric, whatever Peter's paying him, I'll double it and add a zero. But he has thus far rebuffed my offers. But, Eric, I thought, had this budding romance with this young lady who had called into the morning show and said she was Eric's biggest fan and whatnot, and then came onto the show the other day. And then John Hopwood was looking for her also, setting up a potential love triangle with the three of them. It's all very, very scandalous, but it sounds like things are already on the rocks, because as I heard the replay of today's morning show, I heard her calling in saying that Eric Gagnon had broken her heart, and she was very upset with him. So it sounds like that has already fallen apart. So Eric Gagnon still on the market, ladies. It sounds like. So let's see. I'm just looking quickly to see if there is any kind of anything we can add. There probably won't be, honestly, at the moment, about the Robert Mueller officially delivering the Mueller report. Everybody's just reporting, Mueller sends Russia report to Attorney General. Reuters.com does have... Oh, you can actually read Attorney General Barr's letter to Congress that was written today about this. You know what? Maybe we'll, before we run out of time, maybe I'll go ahead and read this letter to you. Because this would be a good excuse, an opportunity, if you will, to do something. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I think we'll do it right now. I will read this letter to you that William Barr has written to Congress, and I will do so in the form of a dramatic reading. All right, here we go. I know how much you all love these. Most of you probably tune in specifically for this. I mean, not to be such a tease and not do them that often, but if I did them too often, they just wouldn't be special anymore. All right, so here it is. The Attorney General of Washington, D.C., March 22nd, 2019, and this was sent to Lindsey Graham, Dianne Feinstein, Gerald Nadler, Doug Collins, Honorable All, of course, chairman of the, they're all members of the Judiciary Committee, etc. But let's get to the letter. It's relatively short, but here it is, a dramatic reading on this very historic day. Dear Chairman Graham, Chairman Nadler, Ranking Member Feinstein, and Ranking Member Collins, I write to notify you, pursuant to 28 CFR 600.9A3, that Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III has concluded his investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 election and related matters. In addition to this notification, the Special Counsel regulations require that I provide you with a description and explanation of instances, if any, in which the Attorney General or Acting Attorney General concluded that a proposed action by Special Counsel was so inappropriate or unwarranted under established departmental practices that it should not be pursued. 28 CFR 600.9A3. There were no such instances during the Special Counsel's investigation. The special counsel has submitted to me today a, quote, confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions, unquote, he has reached as required by 28 CFR 600.8C. I am reviewing the report and anticipate that I may be in a position to advise you of the special counsel's principal conclusions as soon as this weekend. Separately, I intend to consult with Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein and Special Counsel Mueller to determine what other information from the report can be released to Congress and the public consistent with the law, including the Special Counsel regulations and the department's longstanding practices and policies. I remain committed to as much transparency as possible, and I will keep you informed as the status of my review. Finally, the Special Counsel regulations provide that, quote, the Attorney General may determine that public release of this notification would be in the public interest. 28 CFR 609C. I have so determined and I will disclose this letter to the public after delivering it to you. Sincerely, William P. Barr, Attorney General. There wasn't really, that wasn't the most exciting dramatic reading, I have to admit. Not that much there. It wasn't that exciting. It was just kind of more like a form thing. What can you do? Anyway, all right, so we'll check the Facebook live chat one more time. I don't, as of this moment, know whether or not Rob Azevedo is going to be here live in the studio tonight to do his program, Granite State of Mind. So typically on Fridays we wrap up a little bit early because Rob has live musicians coming and play, and they need a little bit of setup time. But I don't currently know if he's going to be here or not. So if we see him arrive, then we will begin to conclude so he can do his thing. And if not, then we won't. So that is that. So right now, I mean, tentatively, we have a little bit of time left. I wish there was more news about, like I said, I've said all along, this whole thing with the Russia probe, it's like a great book that I wish I could just skip to the end of, because I'm dying to know how it ends. But I can't. Jeff Cassell, Dr. Jeff Cassell, if he's still listening, he had posted something earlier. He shared something out from Bloomberg. U.S. posts largest ever monthly budget deficit in February. This is not a great surprise. We had that massive tax cut and no increase in revenue. So, what do you think is going to happen, right? But of course, the Republicans will always tell you, well, you can do this, it'll be fine, because if we do a big tax cut, it's going to create all these jobs and stimulate the economy, and it's going to raise revenue so much that not only will it cover any shortfalls, but we'll actually, we'll have so much money coming in. And even if it doesn't work out that way, deficits don't matter anymore anyway, right? The Republican Party used to be the party of fiscal responsibility, or pretended to be at least, and fiscal conservatism and so much. Now there really is no party of fiscal conservatism. Yep. Oh, Jeff Cassell in the Facebook live chat says Mueller has released a report. Content is not available. Rosenstein and the AG are reviewing it. Yep, we were just talking about that, Jeff. So it says here, again, this is from Bloomberg. Shortfall rises 40% to $544 billion in the first 5 months of the fiscal year. Corporate income taxes decline as tariff revenue climbs. All right, so we'll go through this. This doesn't get too into the weeds. The U.S. posted its biggest monthly budget deficit on record last month amid a 20% drop in corporate revenue and a boost in spending so far this fiscal year. The budget gap widened to $234 billion in February, compared with a fiscal gap of $215.2 billion a year earlier. That gap surpassed the previous monthly record of $231.7 billion set 7 years ago, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. February's shortfall helped push the deficit for the first 5 months of the government's fiscal year to $544.2 billion, up almost 40% from the same period the previous year, the Treasury Department said in its monthly budget report Friday. The release was delayed a week by the government shutdown earlier this year. Receipts dipped less than 1% to $1.3 trillion in the October-February period from the previous year, while spending accelerated 9% to $1.8 trillion. The fiscal shortfall is widening following President Donald Trump's $1.5 trillion tax cuts package that's weighing on receipts and raising concerns about the national debt load, which topped a record $22 trillion last month. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell reiterated his concern over the government deficit in a press conference Wednesday, saying that the nation's growing debt pile needs to be addressed. At the same time, there's a shift among some economists, led by proponents of modern monetary theory, on the dangers of a growing deficit with low inflation and cheap borrowing costs, suggesting there's room for additional spending. Modern monetary theory bursts from obscurity. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a link to another article. Okay. The Treasury data show tax receipts declined for both corporations and individuals in the 5-month period, while revenue from customs duties almost doubled, boosted by income from tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. All right, well, now that sounds like, and I'm no economist, but that might be some positive news in terms of tariffs, because it sounds like those have actually boosted revenue a little bit. Let's see. The 2017 tax law slashed the corporate tax rate from 35 to 21%. Slashed is right. I mean, that's a very, very steep drop. And that's a lot of revenue to give up. And again, you know, the theory that they try to sell you on is, well, if you're taxing these corporations less, they're going to be more productive. They're going to be able to hire more people. You're going to have more people paying in because they're working and so forth and so on. But the numbers that Paul Ryan even admitted in an interview that this was risky. He admitted it before they passed this tax cut, that this was a big risk, that this might not pan out because what they were doing was so drastic. He's on record admitting it. And of course it didn't pan out. This never pans out. I'm not saying there aren't things you can do to stimulate business with the tax code, but supply side economics does not work in terms of reducing the deficit and the debt. It doesn't work. It's never worked. It may have other stimulative effects, but and you know what I always say? You know, it's like pulling teeth to get these people to do anything for small business, right? It's always, well, let's slash the corporate tax cut and let's make sure that the quote-unquote job creators, they use that term, which is just a euphemism for very, very rich people. Let's make sure that they get yet another tax cut and they're going to create jobs, right? It doesn't work that way. And I don't know how many economists and politicians say over the years that small business is the engine that drives our nation's economy. But try getting them to actually do anything for small businesses. You know, small businesses don't have the resources to, have a lobbyist in Washington, right? You know, Bill's hardware store on Main Street in Anytown, USA doesn't have a lobbyist representing him in Washington. You see how it works? The donor class doesn't have a stake in how Bill's hardware is performing this quarter. No. You see how it's rigged? Let's see. It says here, corporations have so far this fiscal year paid $59.2 billion, compared to $73.5 billion in 2018, when the tax law was only partially in effect for some corporations. In 2017, however, the year before the law was enacted, corporations paid $87.4 billion at this point in the year. So what does that tell you? And again, I freely admit I'm not good at math, so maybe I'm missing something here. But these seem like some pretty basic numbers to work with. You keep lowering taxes, guess what? You're taking in less revenue. It's not this magic thing where you keep lowering taxes and all these companies are just instantly so much more profitable and they're hiring so many more people. You know what's really happening, by the way, in on a large scale, in the macro, is jobs are going away. You know, as companies become more and more efficient and as they're using more and more automation and as AI becomes more prevalent, right, artificial intelligence, as we're moving into the future, this is why there's this whole big discussion about universal basic income. That's what's driving that. I'm not saying I'm in favor of it. I'm not making an argument for it. I'm just telling you. And then you got a lot of people saying, oh, you know, it's just a bunch of universal basic income. That's just the idea that a bunch of socialists have, you know, to give everybody money and then nobody has to work. And then, you know, and then we have socialism. We already have socialism to a large degree. We have a mixed economy. But what's actually driving the discussion, if people are being intellectually honest about it, whether you agree or you don't agree, or you think at some point it's something we might have to do, but we're not there yet, whatever it is, what's driving the discussion on UBI is the idea that eventually we're going to reach a point where there literally will not be enough work to do. Because we are on that track and technology is moving very quickly. And we have more and more automation. That's why so many of these jobs are gone in manufacturing. Yeah, I know. The line, they all get shipped overseas. All these jobs are all outsourced. That does play a role. That's part of the picture. And it's actually a small part of the picture. The biggest reason is automation. Robotics. That's what's being used in these. No wonder auto manufacturing has been decimated in this country. Why wouldn't it be? It's not because all these plants have been shipped to Mexico. Some of them. I'm not saying that's not part of it, but it's only part of it. The biggest part is automation. You don't need to hire human beings to assemble cars anymore. And that's what's going on. And as this continues, as automation continues and robotics and AI and, geez, they got 3D print. You can buy a 3D printer, you know? I mean, as all these advances happen, driverless cars, as all these advances continue, and it's happening fast. It's happening fast. We will eventually reach a point. I don't know when. I don't know if it'll be in any of our lifetimes. It may not be. Could be in 10 years. I don't know. There's a whole lot of people who are looking at this and thinking about this and writing about it who have all different kinds of ideas about when we're finally going to hit that point. But they're all saying the same thing. We are eventually going to hit that point where there isn't going to be enough jobs because there literally is not going to be enough work to do. And then what do you do? You know, it's going to end up like, so that's the thing too is, and I'm not trying to make an argument for socialism here, but on a side note, that whole debate is so out of whack anyway. Oh, hello to John Midas Manning, also known as DJ Midas, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. You can listen to his show, Late Night Delight, Saturdays and Sunday nights beginning at midnight here on WMNH. But that whole debate is so out of whack, you know, socialism or not socialism, you know, socialism versus capitalism. You know, it's really weird to me. It boggles my mind. I know we're almost out of time. I don't see Rob, so I guess we're going till 6. It boggles my mind sometimes, the conversation about this that's going on in this country, but it shouldn't. It boggles my mind how binary it is, but it shouldn't because that's how people like it. Red versus blue, liberals versus conservatives, whatever, right? Socialism versus capitalism. That's the discussion. Socialism versus capitalism. It's got to be one or the other. And allegedly, you've got all these people on the left who want socialism, and allegedly, you've got all these people on the right who want capitalism. These are not mutually exclusive things. We already have both. We already have capitalism, and we already have socialism. It's called a mixed economy, which is what most economies are in the world. Mixed economies. You have some government control. You have some free market. That's what we have now. That's what we've always had. That's what we're going to have in the foreseeable future. So this argument, it's this hyper-simplified binary argument that people are having about socialism versus capitalism. It's absurd. Now, you can, I mean, if you want to have that discussion, it's really devolved. It used to be a little bit more sophisticated in that people would argue about the size of government. And if you're someone who prefers small government, which I do, by the way, then you argue against the encroachment of government into the free market in some instances. I'm not an anti-regulation guy. I think a lot of regulation is 100% necessary. I like clean air and clean water. Call me a hippie, but I do. Okay? You know, and then, of course, the other side of that argument might be you want bigger government. You want the government to do more things. Or at the very least, you want them to do what they do now, but you want them to do it better, and you want them to do it more effectively and more fairly and you know, and all that, right? And I support some of that, too. I like having a social safety net. I think it's necessary. I know libertarians hate when I say that, but I do. I think it's necessary. I think it's important. Some people genuinely need help. So that's actually a more sophisticated conversation to have, though, right? Discussions about what is the place of government, what should government be doing versus what they should not be doing, what should they be doing more of, what should they be doing less of, How can we make what government does more efficient and more effective, which is a conversation nobody wants to have, apparently, because that involves modernizing the government and getting them out of the dark ages. I wouldn't be surprised if we have government offices where they're still using dot matrix printers, and I say that only half kidding. You know, but now we're having this discussion in this country about socialism versus capitalism. You got to pick one or the other. We already have both. We've always had both. We're going to continue to have both. You can move the ball in one direction or the other down the field, and I assume that's what we'll continue to do. I mean, part of this is this weird thing with, you would think, if you're someone who just now for the first time in your life is paying attention to politics, if you've never paid attention to politics before and you're just now learning about it, I would not be surprised if you are under the impression that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the most influential, most powerful politician in the entire country, maybe next to Trump, or maybe equal to Trump, right? Because the Republicans have made her the face of this boogeyman called socialism. And it's bizarre. And she's only so powerful and influential. She's not powerful. She's a she's a freshman in Congress, right? But she's apparently very influential because they're on the right. They're obsessed with her. But they've made her the poster girl for quote unquote socialism. We already have it. And as much as I'm a small government guy in a lot of ways, again, I to me, it's a more nuanced thing because I have been very much warming to the idea of Medicare for all. So, how small government am I really? I don't know. I guess it's complicated, but we don't like complications. We don't like nuance. We don't like complex discussions and issues in this country. Everything has to be binary. So we end up having these incredibly absurd narratives and dialogues like socialism versus capitalism. And it's, talk about a false choice, right? They already coexist. All right, we are about out of time for real. So looks like Rob never made it, so although he could run in here at any second. But anyway, so we got to do a full show. So but stick around. Granted State of Mind is next on WMNH 95.3. And if you missed any part of today's show, it will be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org. Thank you to everybody who participated in the Facebook live chat today. Thank you to Brian Brawdy for calling in to talk about the marathon he's doing online on March 30th. Thank you to Mary Lemay for calling in also. And again, condolences to everybody who knew and loved John Weeks, also known as Mr. Baseball. Again, we lost one of our own today, so very sad about that. And that's it for now. Oh, DJ Midas says, keep going. Oh, I can't. I can't. There's another show. Even though it's not on live, there's another show after me, so I have to respect that. But much as I would love to. But hey, I appreciate the encouragement. All right, so I'm going to get out of here. Wow, a historic day, though. A historic day. The Mueller report has been delivered to the AG's office. We'll see what happens from here. You know what would be awful is if it does end up getting buried and we never get to find out. But I think there'd be a lot of outrage in the public if that happened. But we'll see. Where do we go from here? We shall see. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. Thank you all. I'll talk at you a little bit later. Bye, everybody.